Welcome to Tailos, a robotics company focused on bettering your commercial cleaning routine with the latest AI technology driving our products into your hospitality experience.
Hello everyone, and welcome to the Level 1 Engineering Training with Tailos Robotics. My name is Renee, the training manager, and I will be going over today how you can repair most things on your robot with just this Phillips Head 1 screwdriver. It's a pretty nifty tool that can be found in most toolkits and on most properties. We will also send you one in your robot repair kit, so if you're lacking one, don't worry, one should be there soon. Now, all these great tools aside, we want to start by making sure that our robot is placed on a super sturdy surface to minimize any drop or fall risk here. As you can see, I start with the battery uninstalled because that can also fall when flipping the robot over as I am about to do. And also, when you flip your robot over, be very gentle with the surface of it as it can damage the sensors on top. So as you can see here, this is the underbelly of the robot. It looks slightly technical, however, with the right instruction, you can understand how to fix it very easily, which is the goal for today's video. So now that we have your robot secure and in what I call the maintenance position on the table, I want to address these fun-looking wheels on the bottom. These are the wheel pods, and they are Mecanum wheels, allowing the robot to move in its omnidirectional fashion. And you can see that they are almost built in a circle on the bottom of the robot. This here is the roller that I am touching and spinning. This is much like a standard vacuum, and you can also see that it has a skirt that creates suction when it is going along its path. So all in all, pretty standard stuff here that you would see on another piece of cleaning equipment. Now here we have this latch, and this latch releases the wheel pod. And the wheel pod is actually both the wheel and the suspension. So here we go, taking it out, you slide back the clip right here, and once that is done, your wheel pod should simply pop out. And here is the pod when it is out of the robot. We're going to take a closer look here, do a nice 360 of it. And you can kind of see the inner workings. Again, it looks very technical, but what we will be mainly worrying about today is adjusting that suspension for your carpet or floor height. So you can see here there is this little button I push next to the dial, and this actually releases the dial to spin and either tighten or loosen the suspension springs within the wheel pod. So I'm going to twist it here all the way up to an 8, and that makes it a little bit higher off the ground for plush carpets, and then we're going to go all the way back down to a 1, and this is for really low pile carpets or hard surfaces. Usually most properties are at a 3 or a 4, maybe even a 5. There are also these delicate prongs on the top that you want to make sure are not damaged when replacing the wheel pod back into the robot. And what we have here is a space specific to each wheel pod, meaning that you cannot swap out the wheel pods or try and jam them into another wheel pod's place. So just be super gentle when removing them after the height is adjusted and placing them back in. So I'm going to show you how to gently place it back in here. You simply slide it down, make sure that it is nice and seated. If it isn't, again, do not jam it down. And once it is flush, you want to go ahead and slide that clip back in, but again, just double check, make sure that you're not jamming anything in here. And that is how you adjust your wheel. And there we have a sturdy wheel pod ready to go. And you can repeat the process for all of these wheels. They are all built exactly the same on the inside. So now that we've done such a great job at that, we are going to grab our Phillips Head 1, as I mentioned earlier. And you can see that it is quite small, and we'll be needing it here to access the roller. So as you can see, there are 2 brackets and 4 screws. Pretty easy, right? So go ahead and just unscrew those tiny little screws right there, and be very careful not to lose them. I always put them usually right beside me or in a safe place. And here I am removing the bracket, and this bracket should actually fold out, so you don't have to worry about losing the bracket at all. So that bracket is folded out, and on to the next. The reason that you would have to access the roller like this is for many reasons. There's often a buildup of hair, dust, dirt, or even a major jam that you can't get out in the hallway. So accessing the roller will actually solve around 90% of your maintenance screens and any errors that pop up. Alright, so now that we have that second bracket freed, we are going to go in here and we are going to remove the roller, just like this. We're going to wiggle it out here, and just like that, by grabbing it by the bristles, it will come out. And be very careful to not tilt it, as the motor of the roller actually has some weight to it and will slip out. So here we can see the motor on the left and the roller on the right side by side. We're going to place the roller aside for a minute and learn a little bit more about what drives it here. So this is what I call, again, the roller motor, and it has a bearing in it. As long as this bearing can do a 360, you are generally good to go. There is also a little chip here that is a data chip that plugs into the robot and helps us receive any roller frequencies and error messages back at headquarters, so we can help you diagnose and troubleshoot your robot with greater efficiency. I would recommend being very gentle with this part of the robot, and again, not jamming it in or doing anything too violent with it as you place it back in. Those 3 forks on the top are simply what kind of holds the roller to the motor, as you can see inside here, and it might need a bit of cajoling to get back into place in the roller, but we'll cover that when we're all finished. And as you can see here, standard roller with hair mitigation systems in gray, meaning that we tried to build a roller that wouldn't have hair all over it. However, that still happens often, and it can sometimes jump those barriers into this other bearing as seen here. Again, if this bearing can do a 360, it means that your robot can still do its job and use the roller. But if it's getting a little sticky, you can just unplug this bearing here. It is pretty passive, there's no electrical component to it, and it does take a little bit of work and even a prying tool like a flathead screwdriver to get out, because it is pretty firmly anchored to the roller. Now that we can see this bearing separate from the roller, you can see here that it comes in 2 parts that go together a little bit like a sandwich, and this here again helps with hair. You can kind of pull it apart and all the dust and debris should tip out, and then simply place it back together, and you can see the 3 little prongs there again will be going back into the other side of the roller. So get yourself familiar with this piece, because there can be a lot that can get caught up in there. And here is the roller side of things and how to place it back in. You just simply take it right there and pop it back in. Again, use a little bit of force, but not too much here, as it should just clip in nice and gently like that. And check again to make sure that it can do that swift little 360-degree turn, and you're good to go. Now, for the actual roller, you are going to get, again, mainly hair wrapped around it, so make sure that it is scraped off and cleaned with an X-Acto knife or another tool before you go ahead and put the motor back in. As you can see here, the motor doesn't always go in perfectly and may need a few turns for those forks to sit properly and anchor the roller to the motor. Now you can see we have our clean roller put back together, and we want both of these bearings that are shaped like arrows pointed downwards, which is a great guide to how to place things in without much hassle. You can see I'm getting those brackets out of the way here and placing the roller gently back in. Make sure that it sits evenly and flush. Again, feel free to grab the bristles and kind of guide it in here. All right, perfect. Now it's time to reseal those brackets to the roller with your Phillips head 1 and rescrew the 4 screws here. Make sure that they are nice and tight in there. Just needs a few turns and then you are good to go. Next up, we will be taking a closer look at the skirt of the robot, which, much like any other vacuum, really helps the robot do its job and create suction and a seal with the floor as it picks up dirt and debris. So here, as you can see, the skirt kind of has a part in the middle in which you will find a bracket here made out of plastic and 11 Phillips head screws. Now, this skirt will last you a long time but can get some wear and tear around 6 months in, same with the bracket. So if you see that happening or if any holes or tears occur, simply contact support and we will be happy to send a new repair kit out to you. And here, once you get your repair kit, all you need to do is pull back the skirt, remove those 11 screws, and remove the bracket, replace the skirt and or the bracket, whichever one needs it more, and then you can go in here and rescrew those 11 screws. So it is pretty straightforward. I'm not going to do it on the video because there are quite a few screws here and we don't want them to roll all over the place. But next, I would really like to move on to our final feature that is not exactly a maintenance tutorial, but is a bit of a cautionary tale, as our robot, as you can see here, has a lovely latch that is able to create, again, a seal around the bag and the impeller, and creates the suction that allows the robot to pick up as much as it does. And what we have seen in the past is that when this lid latch is slammed shut a little bit too hard, it can break and that suction can be lost, causing the robot to not function properly. So when you are replacing the bag or doing any maintenance and the lid is up in that area, you always want to make sure that when you go to close the lid, your latch is still pointed up and it is not down and being forced into place. So if you feel any resistance, simply tip the latch up again and let it fall back into place, and that should avoid any breakage or need for the robot to be sent in for repairs there.
If you have any questions about our robotic solutions or any issues in the operation process, our support team is here to assist you with all of your automation needs. You can reach out to our support team through any of the channels listed here.